Friday of the 17th week of Ordinary Time. Without human respect. Many people are in need of our good example in this area. There are many people around us who are waiting for clear testimony to the Christian faith. How much we can accomplish by our good example. How much is the world in need of Christian workers who are friendly, cordial, and firm in the faith. Occasionally, we hear of a daring article in which somebody attacks the teaching of the Pope or defends abortion or artificial contraception. Nevertheless, the real daring in our age is to defend the teaching authority of the Roman Pontiff in what pertains to faith and morals, to defend the right to life of every person, to have a large family if that be God's will, to defend the insolubility of marriage. How many wavering hearts have been fortified by one person's loyalty to principle? In order to have the courage necessary to overcome our fears, we need to rely on God's help. We cannot allow that God be removed from society or put into a parenthesis, that misguided men regulate the universal moral law to the closest of individual conscience. It should not surprise us that we may be tempted to pass unnoticed in certain disagreeable situations. St. Peter himself, after having been confirmed as the head of the Church, after having received the Holy Spirit, gave in to the human respect of his Jewish brethren. It took no less than a man than St. Paul to correct him in this manner. This famous confrontation, far from disproving the holiness and unity of the Church, in fact demonstrates the perfect unity of the apostles, the respect that St. Paul had for the visible head of the Church, and the great humility of St. Peter in changing his position. We can help one another in similar circumstances by practicing fraternal correction with our fellow Christians, as was done in the earliest days of the Church. The Lord gives us good example on how we should conduct ourselves. From that sad day in Nazareth, he knew that many people were not in agreement with him, yet he never based his actions upon the opinions of men. Only one thing matters to Jesus, the will of his Father. For example, he never gave up curing people on the Sabbath, even though spies were watching him. Jesus knew what he wanted to do, and he knew that from the start. We never see him have second thoughts or hesitate, much less reverse a decision. Christ asks us to follow him with the same kind of fortitude. It is his own method, quite personal to himself, that he here enjoins on the disciples. Unconsidered, over-hasty action, vacillation, any coming to terms or compromising, these are not for him. His whole life and being are a yea and nay, nothing else. Jesus is always the complete man, always prepared, for he never speaks or acts except out of his whole clear consciousness and his own firm will. We ask Jesus for the strength to guide us at all times to do God's unchanging will rather than the fickle will of men.